Dear students and my dear viewers, welcome back. In the previous session, we have discussed about the structure of the kidney through coronal section, and we have discussed the different parts of the kidney. One is the outer layer is the cortex, and the inner medulla, and a space which is present is called as the renal sinus. So, and also we have discussed about the cortical lobule and the pyramids and the divisions of the renal pelvis, that is major calyx and minor calyces, and these pyramids, the apices of the pyramids are opened as renal papillae into the minor calyx. So all these things we have discussed in the previous session. Now in this session we are going to discuss about the structural and functional unit of the kidney, that is nephron or uriniferous tubule. Okay, yes. Now in the structure, so the nephron is divided into mainly two parts. One is the excretory part and the collecting part. The excretory part is called as nephron, which elaborates urine. Okay, and it consists of a renal corpuscle or Malpighian corpuscle. So here the renal corpuscle is formed by the glomerulus. So this glomerulus is a network of capillaries or tuft of capillaries, which is in the form of ball-like structure and which is surrounded by a capsule called as Bowman's capsule. All these together called as renal corpuscles or Malpighian corpuscle, which are the parts of the excretory part. And another part of the excretory part includes the renal tubule. So the renal tubule, it is a tubular structure which starts from the Bowman's capsule here from. So the entire thing is the tubular structure, which includes proximal convoluted tubule and loop of Henle. So this loop of Henle, which includes both ascending and descending limbs. So this one is the descending limb and this one is the ascending limb. And after that you'll have the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so up to here this one is called as renal tubule. So after that we'll get a junctional tubule, which is not considered as the part of the excretory part. So the excretory part consists of glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, all together called as Malpighian corpuscle or renal corpuscle. Next one is the renal tubule, which includes proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and the distal convoluted tubules. And these are all the parts of the excretory part of the nephron. Now coming to the collecting part, the collecting part consists of two parts. One is the junctional tubule and the collecting tubule. So and it consists of what? Again, the collecting part consists of junctional tubule and the collecting tubule. Okay, so here the collecting part starts from the junctional tubule, from the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, and many tubules unite together to form, so like that many tubules united together to form a structure called ducts of Bellini, which open into the minor calyces through the renal papillae. Okay, so these are all the parts of the nephron. So as we know that the kidney is having the outer cortex layer and the inner medullary layer, and then the space called as renal space. So here the nephron or the uniferous tubule is the functional unit. What are the parts are located in the cortex and the medulla? So normally at the cortex level, the parts included are: one is the glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, proximal convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubule, junctional tubule, and some part of collecting tubule. So all these parts are present in the cortex. If you see in the case of medulla, so the parts of the nephron which are located in the medulla are the loop of Henle. So in this loop of Henle also we are having what are the parts? One is the descending limb, ascending limb, and this part is called as pinhead of loop of Henle. So this descending limb and ascending limb has two variations in their structures. One is some thick part of a descending limb, and next one which is continued as the thinner part of the descending limb, and then pinhead and thinner part, and it is continued as thinner part of ascending limb, and after that thicker part of the ascending limb. So the entire loop of Henle is located in the medulla. This medulla is divided into outer medulla and inner medulla. The thicker parts of the descending and ascending limbs are located in the outer medulla, and the thinner parts and the pinhead of the loop of the Henle are located in the inner medulla. These are the placement of the uniferous tubule in various zones of the kidney. Yes. Now we will see the function of the nephron. So the blood which is carried through the renal artery, which is entering into the glomerulus as afferent arteriole, so which consists of all important salts and glucose, amino acids, and also some proteins, and also the nitrogenous waste called urea is also entered into the glomerulus, where it is filtered. So except large proteins, all the important constituents are also filtered into the Bowman's capsule. So what will happen? So most of the such filtration is called as glomerular filtration, and from the glomerulus an efferent arteriole is coming out of the Bowman's capsule, which surrounds or as capillaries around the tubule, which is called as peritubular vessels. So these are called as peritubular vessels. So whatever the filtrate which comes from the glomerulus enters into the proximal convoluted tubule and loop of Henle and up to the distal convoluted tubule. So the capillaries which are surrounding as peritubular capillaries, here what is happening? The selective reabsorption is taking place. So only urea is left in the tubule, and remaining glucose, amino acids, and some of the important ions are again reabsorbed, which enter into the renal vein finally, which enter into the renal vein. Okay, so this is the thing happening, and the remaining part, that is at the terminal part of the distal convoluted tubule and in the collecting duct, some tubular secretion is going to take place. So a tubular secretion, and this tubular secretion, which is an active process, and it is under the control of antidiuretic hormone. Okay, so and after all these things happens, the urine is formed finally, and this urine is collected in the collecting duct, and which finally opens here in this diagram, you can see, which is finally opens into the renal papillae. Through renal papillae, it opens into minor calyx. From the minor calyx, it enter into the major calyx, and then finally into the ureter. So these are the functions of the glomerulus. And one important thing you have to note here is, this diagram is a schematic diagram. Actually, always this glomerulus or apparatus are very much close to the ascending limb of the distal convoluted tubule. Here you can find here. So this is the actual structure of the nephron. So this one is a schematic representation. Always this glomerulus. Okay. So that is, here we can call it as vascular pole of the glomerulus, which is always closely related to the ascending limb of the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so such kind of thing. So the glomerulus, the vascular pole of the glomerulus, which is intimately related to its own ascending limb of the Henle's loop. Okay, which is nearer to the distal convoluted tubule, is called as Juxta glomerular apparatus. So now we will discuss about the Juxta glomerular apparatus. So the Juxta glomerular apparatus. So in this diagram, this is somewhat exact diagram, exact schematic diagram of the nephron. Here you can see the Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus. So this part is called as vascular pole of the glomerulus. So which one is continued as the proximal tubule and the loop of Henle and the ascending limb of the loop of the Henle. So here the ascending limb of the loop of the Henle of the own renal tubule, which is nearer to the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so this connection, so this adjacent parts, the vascular pole of the glomerulus, and which is intimately related to its own ascending limb of the loop of Henle near the distal convoluted tubule, forms the Juxta glomerular apparatus. Okay, this apparatus includes two types of cells. One is the macula densa, and next one is the juxta glomerular cells. So these are the juxta glomerular cells. Okay, so if you see the macula densa, this one is some of the histological part for the differentiation. The epithelial cells of the walls of the tubule shows a heavy concentration of the nuclei, is called as macula densa. And next one is the juxtaglomerular cells. So here this is the vascular pole, isn't it? One is the efferent arteriole and this one is efferent arteriole. So here the juxtaglomerular cells formed by the epithelioid cells in the tunica media. So this one is the part, if you see the transverse section of the artery, you can find this part, tunica media. Okay, the tunica media of the afferent arteriole. So the juxtaglomerular cells are formed by the epithelioid cells in the tunica media of the afferent arteriole, and also some agranular cells. So here the blue one, agranular cells are also present between the macula densa and the glomerulus proper. This is called glomerulus proper. So all these constitute the juxtaglomerular apparatus. Okay, and here the internal elastic lamina of the arteriole here is absent. Okay, so the juxtaglomerular cells are directly in contact with the endothelium of the blood of the arteriole. So the basement membrane lining the tubule at the macula densa is also absent here. Okay, and the juxtaglomerular cells come in direct contact with those cells also. Okay, so it is believed that this part or liberating an enzyme called renin, which converts angiotensin not angiotensin, angiotensinogen of blood into angiotensin 1. Okay, this angiotensin 1 is in turn converted by another enzyme into angiotensin 2, which causes arteriolar constriction, thus raising in the blood pressure. So this is the function of this juxtaglomerular apparatus. So these are all about the structure and some of the functions of the uriniferous tubule or nephron. In the next session, we are going to discuss about the vascular segments and also the blood supply of the kidney. Thank you.